The private jet cabin was silent, polished in gold light and luxury leather. 3 executives sat quietly in tailored suits. The engines hummed with quiet authority, and at the front of the cabin, a white female pilot stood rigid, her jaw tight, her finger pointed. Across from her sat a calm black man in a tailored gray suit. Her lips moved sharply. Her expression carried disbelief, authority, dismissal. She didn't see a billionaire. She didn't see the owner. She saw someone who in her mind did not belong. 12 minutes later, the plane would not take off, and her career would never recover. Before we begin, if stories that uncover truth and expose injustice matter to you, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to Black Legacy, because what happened on this aircraft was not just about a seat. It was about power. Marcus Ellington had built his empire from nothing, born in a small Louisiana town where opportunity came in whispers and racism came in shouts. Marcus grew up watching his mother clean houses for families who never learned her name. His father worked double shifts at a refinery, hands permanently stained by oil and sacrifice. From an early age, Marcus learned 2 truths. The world would underestimate him, and he would never allow that to define him. He earned scholarships no one expected him to win, graduated top of his class in finance, entered boardrooms where he was mistaken for security more times than he could count. Each insult became fuel. Each sidewise glance hardened his resolve. By 48, Marcus was the founder and CEO of Ellington Aeronautics Technologies, a cutting-edge aviation software company that quietly revolutionized flight logistics for private aircraft worldwide. His company didn't just service jets, it owned them, including the Gulfstream G700 waiting on the tarmac that morning. The aircraft gleamed under the Atlanta sun, worth nearly $80 million, customized interior, cream leather seats, mahogany trim, state-of-the-art cockpit systems built with Marcus's own proprietary software installed. This was not a rental. This was his. But Marcus had learned something over decades in corporate America. Ownership doesn't always look like you. That morning, he arrived without an entourage. No flashy watch, no security team, just a tailor gray suit, polished shoes, and a quiet confidence of man who had nothing left to prove. 3 senior executives from a partner firm were already seated inside the cabin, white men in navy suits, whispering over tablets. They had met Marcus before, but only briefly at conferences. They respected him, but even they carried unconscious expectations. When Marcus stepped inside, the flight attendant greeted him politely but cautiously. Her smile faltered for half a second, scanning him in a way that suggested verification. Then the pilot entered from the cockpit. Captain Rebecca Lawson, decorated, experienced, confident, known for her strict professionalism and by-the-book precision. She stopped mid-step when she saw him seated comfortably in the front-facing, cream leather chair, the primary owner's seat. Her eyes narrowed slightly. There was a flicker there, a calculation. The silence stretched longer than it should have. Marcus noticed. He always noticed. He gave a calm nod of acknowledgement. She did not return it. Instead, she glanced toward the executives behind him, as if silently asking for clarification. They looked confused because to them, this was the CEO. But to her, something did not align with expectation. And that is how it often begins. Not with shouting, not with slurs, but with disbelief. Rebecca approached him, posture stiff, authority radiating. She asked for verification, asked for credentials, asked if he was part of the catering crew or ground operations. The question lingered in the air like smoke. The executives shifted uncomfortably. Marcus remained composed. He had been here before, just not on his own plane. There is a specific kind of humiliation that does not scream. It simmers. The pilot's tone grew firmer. She insisted the seat he occupied was reserved for principal owner. She stated that all guests were confirmed identity before departure. She asked him to relocate to the rear section until documentation could be verified. Marcus felt every eye in the cabin shift toward him. The executives in the back exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene. They knew who he was, but power dynamics are strange things. When authorities stand in uniform, people hesitate. Marcus calmly informed her that he was the principal owner. Her expression hardened. There was again that disbelief. She requested identification in a tone that carried more command than courtesy. Marcus reached into his jacket, slowly, not because he needed to prove himself, but because he understood something about moments like this. They are rarely about facts. They are about perception. He handed her his ID and company credentials. She examined them carefully. Then something subtle happened. Instead of apologizing, she questioned further. She asked why she had not been informed that the owner would be flying personally. She stated that protocol required advance notice. She implied miscommunication. The underlying message was clear. You don't look like what I expected. The air in the cabin felt heavier. Marcus looked around the interior, at the custom stitching he personally approved, at the flight system coded by his engineers, at the tail number he had chosen himself. He could feel decades of microaggressions pressing against his chest, security following him in luxury stores, hotel clerks assuming he was staff, investors asking who the real founder was. And now, on his own aircraft, he was being asked to vacate his own seat. The executives in the back began shifting visibly. One of them cleared his throat, softly, confirming that Marcus was indeed the CEO of Ellington Aeronautics. Rebecca nodded, but did not soften. She stated that safety was her responsibility. She insisted that procedures must be followed. And then she made the mistake. She suggested that until corporate verified ownership, the flight would not depart. There was something about the way she said it, not cautious, condescending, as if she were protecting something from someone who did not belong. 12 minutes had passed since boarding, 12 minutes of doubt, 12 minutes of subtle accusation. Marcus slowly stood. The movement alone shifted the energy in the cabin. He did not raise his voice. He did not argue. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened an internal executive access system, one that only top-level leadership could access. Within seconds, he connected to the operations control center. He instructed them to halt departure. He instructed them to suspend flight authorization. He instructed them to ground the aircraft. Immediately. The engines powered down. The subtle hum faded. Rebecca's expression changed for the first time. Confusion, then realization, then something colder. Marcus calmly informed her that he was not only the principal owner, he was also the majority stakeholder and CEO of the company that contracted her aviation services. He explained that questioning identity is one thing, but presuming exclusion is another. He reminded her that professionalism does not include assumption. The cabin was silent. The executives in the back stared forward, stunned. Rebecca's posture shifted from authority to awareness, but it was too late, because this was not about ego. It was about pattern, and Marcus had spent his entire life dismantling patterns. The decision did not come from anger, it came from clarity. Marcus contacted the aviation board liaison and HR director. He requested an immediate review of the pilot's conduct under discriminatory bias policies. He documented exchange. He cited breach of executive protocol. He outlined reputational risk. And then he did something few expected. He terminated her contract, pending investigation. Right there on the tarmac. The executives behind him sat frozen. Rebecca stood motionless, absorbing the weight of consequence. For years, she had commanded aircraft worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She had navigated storms, turbulence, mechanical threats. But she had never confronted her own bias. And now, it cost her everything. Marcus did not celebrate. He did not gloat. He simply looked at her and stated that leadership requires awareness, that in aviation, assumption can be dangerous, and in business, it can be fatal. The flight attendant stood near the galley, shaken. The executives looked at Marcus with something new in their eyes, not just respect, understanding, because they had witnessed something uncomfortable. They had seen how quickly doubt attaches itself to Black excellence, how easily ownership is questioned, how often authority is challenged when it does not fit expectation. A replacement pilot was dispatched within the hour. The aircraft would depart, but the atmosphere had shifted permanently. News of the incident never went public. Marcus chose discretion, not to protect her, but to protect the company. However, internally, changes were made immediately. Mandatory bias training across contracted aviation partners, revised executive identification protocols, clear disciplinary frameworks for discriminatory conduct, and perhaps most importantly, conversations. Honest, uncomfortable conversations. Marcus addressed his senior leadership team later that week. He spoke not of revenge, but of responsibility. He reminded them that power without accountability mirrors the very injustice they fight against. He explained that racism rarely announces itself loudly in elite spaces. It whispers.